Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. My name is Vinita Shetty. I'm convener of Placemaking India. And this is second in a series of street redesign projects in Maharashtra. It is a meeting of the Maharashtra Hub, the monthly meeting of the Maharashtra Hub. And Vipra Kothari, who's the leader, is unable to attend today because of an emergency, health emergency. But we'll record the meeting and it'll be up on the YouTube channel of Placemaking India. Now, Nashik is a city which manages to be both a destination for pilgrims and for wine lovers. And so I'm really interested to see what is happening. The smaller cities are probably more important to Placemaking India than the metros because of the possibilities of getting things right. And I'm quite interested to hear what this team of 4 architects who are former classmates, what they've come up with. That's sort of picks up on some of the themes of the DNA of the city. And I will now hand over to Inakshi Bhatia, who's the moderator, to introduce the speakers and begin the presentation.
Thank you, Vinita. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second public session of the Placemaking India initiative, where it's hosted today by the Maharashtra Hub. I'm Inakshi Bhatia. I'm an architect and an urban designer from Mumbai, and I'm part of the Placemaking India initiative, and I'll be moderating the session for the evening. So I'm going to begin again with, just a little introduction about the initiative itself. And we are a group of self-organized network of architects, urban designers, geographers, heritage conservationists, citizen intermediaries, social workers, and local and regional government administrators. So we are a regional learning network of Placemaking X with 16 affiliates worldwide. And we're committed to advocating for healthy, safe, inclusive, and beloved communities in South Asia. So today, as Vinita has already mentioned, we're in conversation with 4 budding architects who've come together to propose a project called Rah Malhar. They're going to be talking about their design and placemaking solution for revamping almost half a kilometer long stretch on Old Agra Road in Nashik as part of their Streets for People challenge, an initiative of the Smart Cities Mission, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and the Government of India, to inspire to create walking friendly streets through quick measures. So I'm going to hand it over to Meghna from here on to move ahead with the presentation by team Rah Malhar. Over to you, Meghna.
Thank you so much, Inakshi, for the wonderful introduction. I'd like to start this presentation by thanking Placemaking India on behalf of the entire team, that is Devendra, Dhruv, and Samruddhi, for giving us the opportunity to share our proposal for Old Agra Road in Nashik, which, as mentioned earlier, is the winning entry in the Streets for People challenge by Nashik. Inakshi has already elaborated. I'll just talk about the Streets for People challenge very briefly. This is an open to all competition that has been launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs under the Smart City Mission. I think there is a lag. Is my voice audible? Yeah, yes. Sorry. The Streets for People challenge is an open to all competition that has been introduced by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs under its Smart City Mission in collaboration with ITDP India. This challenge is basically looking for quick and economic design solutions to encourage and promote pedestrian-friendly streetscapes in Indian cities. What's really great is that 100+ cities in India have already taken part in this challenge. What was interesting to us about this particular challenge was essentially the test, scale, learn approach, which basically means that the winning entries got to collaborate with the local authority and the Smart City Corporation in the respective cities to not only implement their design proposal as a part of the pilot intervention project, but to also further their learnings from the pilot onto the design of additional streets in the cities. The Nashik brief mentioned two sites, that is Site A and Site B for the pilot intervention. We put forth our design proposal for Site A, which is a part of the old Agra Road in Nasik. As you can see here, the old Agra Road it lies in the old city of Nasik, and it leads on to the Godavari River in the north. The site chosen for the pilot intervention, it stretches from the CBS bus stand in the south to the Meher Chowk in the north. What's important here is that this particular stretch of the road has been recently revamped by the Nashik Smart City Mission in terms of its physical infrastructure. Talking about the overall context of the site within a 500-meter distance, the character of the site is of mixed use. There is a variety of government buildings, schools. There are also commercial offices and restaurants. There is a presence of a bus stand, which is a city bus stand, the CBS bus stand. In terms of the vehicular traffic, during the day on the weekdays, there is heavy vehicular traffic due to the government buildings, offices, commercial offices, and restaurants as compared to the weekends. Here on, we will be presenting our design proposal in terms of the project timeline to provide a clear understanding of our entire process, starting with the walking audit and the site survey that happened in December 2020. What was next was the submission of the design proposal by all the participants in January 2021. Being shortlisted among two other entries, we then went on to the community voting round, which happened in March 2021. Having won the challenge with the most amount of votes from the community, we then went further into the process in terms of the feasibility and the cost for the entire project.
During the working audit, we did survey of the site condition and existing development done by the Smart City of India in the state. So these are the pictures of the working audit. And after the walking audit was done, we documented the site at 3 different times of the day. And we drew a qualitative analysis based on it. Pedestrians and vehicular movements were the highest during the week. Pedestrian and vehicular movements was highest during the peak hours, while the road was vacant in the morning and at night. We also noticed various activities happen at different times of the day. With respect to the physical context, concluded that, and we concluded that 5-meter width of the road was underutilized, and there were currently very little ancillary functions happening on the footpaths according to the physical context, such as school and court, etc. So next, we identified a few issues on the site, and we sorted these issues into various different junctions on site. I'll walk you through them. So this was the first junction that we identified. It was near Meher Junction, where the girls' high school near the girls' high school footpath. Due to presence of the speed table at the junction, two-wheelers and auto rickshaws tend to park on the footpath itself, making it very inconvenient for the users to use it, like even school children and everybody to use it for crossing, etc. This is the section showing the next slide. So this is the section showing the same junction, where width of the footpath is underused due to the vehicular parking. We also observed that cycle track throughout the stretch is currently used for four-wheeler parking, making it very inconvenient for cyclists to use it as a cycle track continuously. So on the weekdays during the day, on the area outside of the collector's office and district magistrate is predominantly crowded by the visitors who prefer to park their vehicles on the footpath rather than parking it inside the campus, for which is a paid parking. Also, as you can see, the footpath area is very chaotic and creating obstruction for people to walk. So in this section, in the existing section, you can see the district magistrate footpath. This is the area outside of CBS Junction, where outside of Hotel Priya. So as you can see, the shops and hotel outside of that, a lot of two-wheeler have been parked, and which creates very unpleasant atmosphere for pedestrians to access the shops and leaving no room for allied activities. Hence, this zone is predominantly commercial zone, so it's better to have allied activities there, which are currently not existing. So in this section, you can see that more than half of the space of the footpath outside Hotel Priya is taken by two-wheelers, leaving very less space to walk. So these are the prevalent issues that we noticed on the site.
Next.
So these were some more other issues that we had noticed throughout the site. It includes poor accessibility of public toilets, and which has very less visibility from the roadside, and also no handicapped access. Then disorganized informal kiosks and stalls spread throughout the footpath, aesthetically unappealing boundary walls, and four-wheeler parking in front of the bus stop were some of the other issues that we noticed.
Next was the design proposal for this particular stretch. The proposal aims at achieving a certain objectives centered around community and its engagement. It employs the use of cost-effective design tools in order to further activate this current road stretch and to make it more pedestrian-friendly by using tactical urbanism tools. Further on, to use the learnings from the trial process to create an overall impact in the city. Now, the design strategy was divided into two phases, phase 1 and phase 2 in terms of the implementation. Phase 1 is the trial phase for testing the design strategies, which looks at community workshops, restricted parking, the use of soft infrastructure, and public outreach. Phase 2 aims at a permanent weekend bazaar during the weekends on Sundays morning, crowdfunding, promoting heritage in the old city of Nasik in order to have safer street. Now, in order to achieve this, we proposed a few strategies. Number 1 was the use of temporary street furniture in order to make the streets more livelier. Next was the wall painting of compound walls, which could be done by the students and the community as a part of the various public outreach programs. In order to have a more efficient cycling infrastructure, we've proposed for clear, defined cycle lanes using traffic cones, along with biking stations at regular intervals. In the predominantly commercial zone, we've proposed for open-air plazas to support pedestrian activities that could be related to the shops and the restaurants near the zone. Finally, defined lanes for both vehicular and pedestrian traffic movement is the aim. Also, to furthermore engage the community in the street design development, we also employed the use of a public mobile application and a website portal that looks at the events and happenings on the street during the weekdays and weekends, along with the integration of cycling.
So as the implementation process has been divided into these two phases, we have designed an urban toolkit for the street furniture, which has been devised to create low-cost effective solutions. And this has been done so as to activate the street by curbing the parking of the two-wheelers and the three-wheelers and introducing pedestrian activities. So talking about the first toolkit, we designed food kiosks and seating areas. So in the first phase of this toolkit, we have proposed to invite the local residents to donate their fruit crates and other household waste in order to design open seating and market display areas. In the second phase, this will be converted into a more permanent solution, such as a permanent kiosk and with a covered shaded area. The second toolkit talks about an open library space. Just a second, I think something is missing. Yeah. So in the first phase of this toolkit, we have designed an open amphitheater seating combined with an open street library, which is integrated as a part of the seating with household waste crates. So in the second phase, this will be converted into a more permanent solution using concrete materials and an organized open library area. Now, the third phase is in that we've designed a children's play equipment. So in this phase, we have designed an open amphitheater. In this phase, we have designed a temporary children's play equipment such as swings and slides using refurbished materials like waste tires, bamboos, and waste bottles. In the second phase, this will be converted into a more permanent solution using materials such as metal and wood. Now, talking about the fourth toolkit, we have designed an exhibition space. So in the first space, we have designed an open art display area, which will showcase the talent of the local children and the local artists outside the government's girls' high school, along with Yulu cycling sharing stations. And in the second phase, this will be converted into a more permanent solution, and the cycle stand would be redesigned along with the seating area. The fifth toolkit, we have designed open gymnasiums. So in this, we have designed, in the first phase, we have designed the temporary open gymnasium and seating using very simple design methods. And in the second phase, this will be converted into a more advanced open gym equipment of a more permanent nature. Now, talking about the sixth toolkit, we have designed an entrance junction detail. This entrance junction detail will be outside the district magistrate office in our stretch. And in the first phase, we have designed crate planters at the entrance to avoid the two-wheeler parking on the footpath while allowing the pedestrian movement across the footpath along with the disabled friendly access. And in the second phase, this will be converted into a more permanent solution by designing RCC planters constructed in order to avoid the two-wheeler parking and allowing the pedestrian movement. Now, considering this entire site context and its impact on the pedestrian movement, we have designed a zoning plan which has been formulated to make the street more pedestrian friendly and walkable. So looking at the overall context, the side of the road on outside the government's girls' high school remains inactive in the morning on the weekends, and hence we have converted this site into a happy street on the weekend, which will house various public events for the local residents. Then these were the zones of the interventions where we have decided to intervene. So they start off with the area outside the government's girls' high school and the district collector's office, the area outside the district court, and the area outside the CBS bus stand. Finally, looking at the footpath activities, we have designed the footpath with the various elements from the urban toolkit, keeping in mind the conditions of the different zones. Moving on to Devendra.
Now going into the details of the three zones on the site. The zone 1 is the Government Girls High School and District Collector's Office. This area has wide footpaths on both the sides, which are underutilized and hence have become parking spots for two-wheelers and rickshaws. Hence, to activate the footpaths, we have divided the footpath into two parts. One is the activity zone and the other is the pedestrian zone. So outside the district collector's office, we have proposed makeshift kiosks and sitting to promote the microeconomy in the area. Outside the school, we have proposed temporary seating with open library, play areas, and exhibition stands. Also, we intend to launch a community-based competition for murals, wall art, sculptures, and installation in the area. This is how we envision the area outside the school, incorporating exhibition space, sitting, and play areas using temporary materials. Depending upon the feedback from the local community and the authorities, these interventions could be made permanent later on. These are some of the tactical urbanism references we looked at for the play area and the wall art. Going to the next zone, which is the area outside District Magistrate and the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Stadium. The footpath on the District Magistrate side is quite wide. However, the footpath on the stadium side is only 1.5 meter wide, and there are various trees lined along the footpath. And the the compound wall of the stadium is broken at multiple places. Hence, to activate that space, we have introduced open gym and furniture made during the community events, which would be placed between the trees. Also, the broken compound wall will be converted into seating benches. The footpath next to the district magistrate office is mostly used for two-wheeler parkings, as people want to avoid the PN park facility available inside the campus. This creates a chaos on the footpath and does not allow enough space for pedestrians to walk or even sit on the existing benches. This happens because the footpath is quite wide and easily accessible to two-wheelers. To cater to the footpath, keeping in mind the movement of the pedestrians and differently abled people. Also, some makeshift kiosk and for people coming to district magistrate. This is how we envision the first phase of the district magistrate outside the area outside district magistrate office to look like. And depending upon the feedback, we will be making a more permanent intervention in the second phase. Some of the tactical urbanism references using temporary materials for seating and the separation between footpath and the cycle track are like this. Coming to the zone 3, this area is outside the CBS bus stand, Hotel Priya and district home guard office. Being next to the junction, there is a lot of vehicular and pedestrian movement here. The footpath and the cycle track outside the Hotel Priya are completely blocked with two-wheelers and rickshaws, creating a movement problem for pedestrians and cyclists alike. Thus, to cater to this problem, we have introduced a bulb out in the by lane, making it easier for pedestrians to cross while shifting the parking in the by lane. Also, the footpath outside Hotel Priya has been divided into two zones. One is the pedestrian zone and the other is the food plaza, wherein we have incorporated shaded seating and kiosks. The area outside the subway has been cleared by shifting the hawkers in the bus into the bus stand next to it. And also, we propose the subway to be painted by local artists and community members to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Going to the views, this is how we envision the first phase of the food plaza to look like. And once the trial is completed, we can make it permanent by adding more permanent furniture. Coming to the references of the tactical urbanism for the bulb out and the shaded seating and the shaded footpath outside the Hotel Priya. Also, this street was earlier used to conduct happy streets on Sundays. Hence, we propose to restart the same on the side of the school, which remains relatively empty during the early hours of the day. And people from different backgrounds and age groups can come together and enjoy the space. Over to Meghna.
Yeah. So after the design submission, a total of 3 entries were shortlisted for the community voting round. This was done to engage the community in the street design process. A Google form was circulated amongst the community with the presentation to the design proposal of the shortlisted entries. Having won the competition and receiving the most amount of votes from the community, we then got into a dialogue with the authorities at the Smart City Corporation and were asked to submit our design drawings for the feasibility analysis and to understand the cost for the implementation. The drawings containing the details to the design of the street furniture along with a tentative costing estimate has been submitted by us and the feasibility analysis is currently underway. Unfortunately, due to the surge in cases, in COVID-19 cases in Maharashtra, not much progress has been made and currently the process has stagnated. However, we do look forward to getting in touch with the authorities again and taking this project further in terms of its implementation. This was our conceptual design proposal for revamping the old Agra Road in Nashik. We hope you liked this presentation. And once again, thank you, Placemaking India, for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to the team. So I think we'll move to the question answer session.
Yeah.
So for the audience, if there are any questions, you can type it in the chat box here and we can then take them up. So we'll just begin with my first question for you is that what was your response to the building views while designing the street right outside the, we're looking at public buildings and we're looking at schools and we're looking at a few, one end is the transport node with the CBS junction, the CBS bus stand, and the other, we can see a few commercial buildings. So what was your response to the area right outside that in terms of the building use? And I'd like to further this question with another relatable question is that public buildings have a different sort of a parking issue outside them, because there's a lot of floating population that's there. So how did you, first of all, document it? And then how did you sort of translate that into your design? The response to the building use and then the parking problem.
Okay. I think I'd like to take up the first part of the question. So, as mentioned during our presentation, there was a walking audit that was organized by the Smart City Corporation in Nashik, wherein they very strategically had addressed few issues that they were facing during the design development of this entire street, which were pointed out to us, and they requested us to address these issues in our design proposal. So, which is why we have strategically we have proposed our proposal in terms of a zoning plan, wherein we have identified the zones of intervention. One being the zone outside the government school, girls' school. Second being the district court, where we have the parking issue of two-wheelers. And third is the very predominant commercial zone, which is Hotel Priya, right opposite the CBS bus stand. So, having documented the site at different times of the day, we did a photographic documentation in the morning, afternoon, and at night. We also looked at the entire user experience, spoke to a bunch of people who frequent the site on a daily basis, weekly basis, as well, who pass by the site to reach other parts of the city. Having done all of that, we've designed a toolkit in a way that fits to the need of the site. The area outside a government girls' school is supposed to be, it could be used for recreational purposes, which is why we've proposed open air gyms and libraries out there. Parking issue needs to be immediately solved outside the district court, because the two-wheelers tend to park over the footpath because of the way the footpath currently is. It is a very wide footpath. It goes almost up to 5 meters, which is why we decided to place planters in a way that it could be accessed by the differently abled and the pedestrians, but would also curb from the parking to happening on weekdays in the mornings. And of course, the area outside Hotel Priya has been supposed to be transformed into a public plaza. So in terms of building use versus the design that we proposed, we have tried to document the entire site at different times of the day, looked at the kind of activities that happen outside these buildings, and then put forth our proposal in a very strategic manner to cater to all the activities.
Yeah, sorry. And I'd just like to add on this. So like along with the issues outside the building, so the toolkit was designed in this way that, for example, if the area outside the government girls' high school is not being used, so along with like a library space, we've also given like open display areas where the children could actually come out and display their entire artwork. And that's why like even all the walls of the boundary walls of the government girls' high school also have been painted as a part of the competition to engage the community. So this toolkit was actually designed while keeping in mind the issues of the people. And the major issue that we were facing was, while the documentation of the site remains inactive. And that's why tactical urbanism becomes a great tool to activate the site in the first phase as a temporary intervention. And then as and when we learn from the needs of the users, that becomes permanent. So that's what we have tried to achieve majorly through tactical urbanism. Yeah.
So before we move to your answer on the parking question, I'd still like to bring this question back. You were saying that you're proposing activating the area outside a girls' school. Now,
right.
And this is an entire public street. So there are people who are coming from all kinds and classes of society that are going to be part of the street. So the question, I'll be a little more specific. How do you look at safety of a girls' school when you are activating it and bringing more population outside it? I understand the response for the school kids to come out and play, but then how do you look at it from people outside having a gaze inside the school in terms of security? So that's one question. The second thing is you're talking about the parking. Meghna mentioned about the parking. In public areas, I don't think it is a great idea to fight the parking and curb it, because that's what people are there to do. They're there to be there for a certain while and go away, and they have to park their vehicle somewhere. Either there is a great public transit network in the city, which Nashik actually really lacks in terms of the last mile connectivity from a main public transport system into where you have to be. So then how do you sort of manage the issue of parking by barricading them off and not really allowing for the need that's actually to park in the place and do your work and then go back? So how do you tackle these problems in this kind of a situation is my question.
Yeah.
I'll address the parking one first.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can
I'll address the parking one first. So the problem of the parking is because the footpaths have been developed, the street has been developed in the Nashik Smart City Mission. The footpaths have been made quite wide, and being 5 meter wide, there are not enough activities during the day happening for the people, as the district collector's office or the district magistrate, where people come and go continuously. So that is why people park their bikes on the footpath. However, if we introduce activities related to the district magistrate or the collector's office outside on the footpath, and make enough sitting space available, because that is also one of the things that lacks outside the area, because a lot of people have to wait, and they usually come out and wait on the footpath. So a lot of sitting space is also required. So if we put such activities, people will have no option but to go inside the complex and pay and park. Right now they try to save some money by parking the vehicles on the footpath. Also, the Nashik Municipal Corporation has proposed vehicular parking in the complex of the CBS bus stand, which is right next to the district magistrate. So that work is still under process, and once that also happens, there will be additional parking facility inside the CBS bus stand complex. So that also could be utilized by people to park their vehicles and go to the court.
Also, I'd like to mention that we have not fought parking. We have actually catered to the parking while also keeping in mind the pedestrians, which is why the area outside Hotel Dia, we have suggested bulb outs, which then leads on to parking. Like there is a designated parking that is happening opposite CBS bus stand inside the lane. So parking has not been restricted, or it's not that we will have to depend on a more efficient public transit system. But it's just that the people will not directly park outside onto the vehicles. They will park a little further, either into the designated parking opposite CBS bus stand or within the CBS bus stand, which is right bang opposite the district magistrate. So that was something that we actually did struggle with, and the end result of this was the designated parking and the parking at the CBS bus stand. That was what we had.
Yeah, and I think what Meghna was also talking about parking, like moving from that to safety, which was again like pointed out in your question. I think that's a very good question. So what we have kept in mind is the user group at each and every junction. So with respect to that, we had done a time-based analysis as to what element of the toolkit would be used. So for example, outside the girls high school, in the morning, if the girls are using the space outside to display their art, the walls of the girls high school make sure that the artwork is sort of creating this privacy barrier for them inside in the evenings. So in the mornings, and in the evenings, that space is being used by the community and the local artists. So as a result, that space never becomes underutilized, and that space becomes active and keeping in mind the user group. So that's, I think, one way we've dealt with the time-based analysis with respect to privacy.
So my question was actually, to look at it a little more sensitively than, just looking at, activating every part of the street. Because,
Right.
in some cases, it's better that we don't do too much in order to
Right.
not create more problems than we're trying to solve. So that was my question. The parking argument, I'm still not convinced, but, we can take it up later. So let's just move on to another question. We have a question from the audience here, so let's just look at that. The question is by Chetan Sode. His question is that how is the proposal looking at maintaining phase 2, the permanent implementation? Who will be responsible for the enforcement and regular operations of this stretch, as one-time funding of implementation seems to fade away soon? And the second question that he's, I'll just take up both the questions together. So the second question that he's put up is, when is it expected for the vendors to come and activate the stretch with kiosk and facilities? And what are the incentives we're looking at enticing them to come to the stretch? Also, that they stay here through the latter period when the hype of the challenge is gone and has faded. So how do you keep the interest of the tactical urbanism initiative alive for it to become a more permanent thing in the city?
Yeah.
So to answer to this,
Yeah,
No,
Samruddhi,
you go.
can take up.
You can go, Samruddhi. I have something to add anyway.
Yeah, so to answer to this, first of all, we had planned that we are proposing the phase one because this is a very experimental solutions that we have given. So, like from painting the footpaths to cycle track to even adding the planters, which are like the crate planters, it's all temporary and it's very cost effective. So all these solutions will be tested first, like say in a period of 3 to 4 months. And even the open library, for example, this is a very experimental solution in which people can come and like donate their books and they can keep it there for everyone to read, and somebody else can take them and read and again give it back to the community. So this is if we are not sure if this solution will work 100% on the site, but this is a very experimental solution which has worked in a few other cities. So whatever solutions out of these are working, we can implement them in the second phase of the and it's always like a feasibility study, and all of those things will be done, and what materials to be used, etc. All that study will be done before making all the installations and all the solutions permanent on site. Yeah.
Meghna, you want to take up the permanent part, the
So,
phase two?
yeah, I think talking about phase two, we actually had a lot of discussion on this, even with NMSCDCL, which is the Smart City Corporation in Nashik. For phase two, we took reference from the Happy Street that happens right now along along the Old Naga Road in Nashik. And there are certain sponsors who actually help in putting this entire Happy Street into place. So for phase two, for the permanent implementation, we're looking at crowdfunding, where we obviously, as a part of the public outreach programs, we envision for various sponsors, be it newspapers, different publication houses, even like we have advertisements and all sort of sponsors who would like to have their name as a part of this entire program. So phase two, permanent implementation, the costing comes from crowdfunding mainly. Also, NMSCDCL has set aside certain amount of funds for these kind of street development projects. So obviously, I cannot name it. I cannot take any figures or name any names. But crowdfunding and Smart City Corporation both will go hand in hand in order to implement the phase two. Who
Also,
will be
like, sorry, just continue. I'll add on
so
later.
I'm reading. So it says who will be responsible for enforcement and regular operations of this stretch. For the enforcement and regular operations, Nashik Smart City Corporation is responsible for the entire project in terms of its maintenance and regular operations. So I think along with the municipal body in Nashik. So I think these both bodies are responsible in terms of the enforcement.
Yeah, and I think this won't be a one-time funding implementation also. I think this will be done over a period stretch of 5 years or 10 years, and we'll have to look at a funding strategy over a period of 10 years for the phase two implementation. But that's why we were very specific about the phase one being very cost effective in the way that we have proposed to invite the local residents to sort of donate their food crates and different waste items to sort of come together and create this temporary solution. So that way the funding sort of comes from the city itself for the phase one. And then the phase two, once the city kind of knows which kind of design elements are working. So they are very specific as to where the funding is going. So that funding also doesn't go to waste. So I think that's why this funding strategy will also take up, let's say 5 years down the line to sort of become a permanent solution. But till then, the temporary solutions would be aiding the situation. And I think talking about the second one, which is about the vendors. So as we have done it in the as part of the design strategy, we have also envisioned a soft infrastructure for the entire proposal. So the app-based development or the website, that is something that we are trying to stretch for a better sort of UX for the entire space. So that's why what happens is that especially in the times of COVID, everything from getting the kiosk on the site to sort of getting the people on the site, it all becomes online. And that's when people know, okay, this time this vendor is going to come. And that's how things go in flow. So that's how we are envisioning that the entire space becomes more time efficient with respect to the vendors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of also in terms of incentives for the shopkeepers. So whoever is interested in putting up a shop there, they can get a permanent like a license from the government itself, like one yearly license. That is how it happens in Mumbai also currently. So whoever other shopkeepers or hawkers that are there since say more than 10 years, they get a license. So through that, they can put up their stalls. So that government can have a few incentives for them through which these stalls can be put up.
Right. So there is a question by Priyal that she's asking, if the effectiveness of phase 1 doesn't work out, then how do you plan to make the changes to the phase 2 design? And I will just like to add to this question that when you're doing phase 2, would you there's already money being spent on this street that you're saying by the smart city mission, and we're actually seeing it fail because the parking sort of didn't accommodate, was not accommodated, and that's why people are on the footpath, they're in the cycle tracks, and the spaces that were made were not being completely used. So if you had the chance of actually physically implementing phase 2, do you think it's a good idea to even modify the street section from completely conceptualizing it from scratch? Because honestly, with your explanation, it's not really working as effectively as it should. So two things. One is what she's asking, and the second is, how do you look at the modified street section? And the other question that she's putting up is with respect to the materials and permanent furniture that you're looking at for the intervention.
So I'll take up this question. Since the road, it is a around 2 kilometers long road, and it has been developed in the Nashik Smart City Mission. So that is why our design solution was to take the existing situation that is there and not make any major changes, as large amount of money has been already spent, and utilizing the area of the footpath that has been given to us to increase the activities that that could be done. And we are not looking to make any major changes because the cycle track has been incorporated, the footpaths are quite wide, and the carriageway width is also sufficient. So there is not really a major change that is needed. Only activities and certain alignments can be changes to the same can be made so that the street is more active and is utilized for what it has been made and not for parking. So that was one. And also the trial phase is for that, because a lot of stakeholders are there, and also public buildings being on the street, they also have a big say on what they want. A district magistrate wouldn't want a proper intervention to come in front of their building. Some security reasons and all those things are there, and that is why a trial run would help before moving on to a more permanent intervention in a way.
So the question is, how will it be measured? Like how will your phase 1 success be measured? And then if suppose it doesn't work out, then what would be the measures to sort of modify or suggest another proposal?
So the phase 1 is made using using temporary materials. So it could be modified easily and trial could be adjusted accordingly. Also, the success of the phase 1 will depend upon the occupants of the buildings, the Nashik Municipal Corporation and the Smart City officials, and also the daily users that come on site, how they react to the street furniture, how their movement pattern changes.
So yeah, exactly. That's what her question. How will you measure it? How is it going to be quantified?
Yeah.
So we will document it through photographs. Yes, we will document it through photographs and through, like we will keep taking photographs at certain intervals during weekdays and weekends to see how it's been used. And also, like, we will have to do some sort of advertisement of how to use it during the weekends, like whatever kind of festivities or competitions that we are planning for those. So, and after which we will have to document it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think moving on to the measuring part, basically what we were envisioning that before the phase, after the phase one, we'll be developing an impact-based report as to how much impact this phase one has been created. So the metrics of that impact-based report will definitely depend upon the user group and the numbers of the users that are coming and using it. So that part is that the development of the impact-based report will be done after the phase one. So firstly, we want to do a trial run as to see how the tactical urbanism methods are actually benefiting the users, and then we'll be developing the metrics using the method. Yeah. So after the impact-based report is done, then we'll have clear answers as to which solutions don't work and what needs to be done after that for phase two.
Yeah, I think someone, ma'am has just answered this question really well. She said that the behavioral change will evidently be a major factor in the success of the implementation, which is what I was just about to say. Currently, this is not a pedestrian-friendly street. How we measure the effectiveness of the phase one trial and how we go on to phase two is to make it a pedestrian-friendly street. So if we do a just like in a very generic sense, if I have to answer this question, if we do just a footfall count as to the number of pedestrians that use the street right now on weekdays at different time of day versus the weekend, and if we compare that to the trials to the people, the number of visitors that visit the Happy Street on weekends and stuff, I think if we just do a quantitative analysis and a comparison between the two, that itself is a big measure. Like it speaks a lot about how the intervention is going to be successful. Idea is to involve the community right from the designing process of the street furniture, as well as to see them using that furniture on weekends during the Happy Street, as well as different times of the day. So also there is a varied variety of user groups. We're talking about school children, we're talking about people who visit the court, which is the lawyers, and also people who frequent the court on a daily basis. There is a lot of staff that is involved. And we have tried to very specifically cater to the individual needs. So in terms of measuring it, I think it has to be a very specific report. It's not going to be, there's no generic way to answer this question. There's no general answer.
Yeah, and also I think definitely after the phase one, we'll be like the Nasik Smart City Corporation will also have to do at least a very basic social impact assessment for the phase one. So if once they get the metric value for each kind of impact that each zone has made, I think we'll definitely get more clear answers as to which let's say which part of the street becomes more active with which kind of intervention. But I think looking at the basic site analysis that we had done with the walking audits and at the different amount of the days, we have given the first phase solutions to be sort of to kickstart the campaign. And I think there was another question for the permanent materials for the second phase. So definitely we were looking at materials that are very low maintenance, and majorly right now we were looking at converting the existing designs into a more permanent solution using concrete or metal. But definitely as and when we kind of see what the phase one is actually giving out. So if let's say a bamboo solution is also a long-term solution, and if that is actually working well with the community sort of maintaining it as a part of their own design, then I think that could also be continued further. So yeah.
Right. So I think that's about the questions we have. One last question I'd just like to add is, how long are we expecting the trial run, if you guys have an idea of that, of phase one?
Yeah, so as a part of the Streets for People challenge, ITDP India has suggested that the trial run, it should go for at least a month because that involves 4 weekends. So you can understand the traffic patterns, and you can have a photographic documentation of the entire process. So in terms of community coming together, having workshops, having competitions, public outreach programs, till the things being put into place and have at least 2 weekends for the weekend street to take place, I think 1 month is the minimum amount of time that the phase one challenge should last. Yeah, we would love for it to happen for even more time in order to actually see what impact it's having over, like in terms of a seasonal change as well. But as of now, ITDP India suggests that at least 1 month, the trial phase one, as we are calling it in our presentation, it should go on for a month and be documented at all times of the day.
So, yeah, thank you all of you all for this amazing presentation and for answering our questions so enthusiastically. I think it's a great effort put together by you all, and I'm sure that you guys are going to take it a mile forward with the implementation phase also. So over to you, Vinita, for a final closing comment.
Yes, thank you so much, and thanks so much for ending this so brilliantly on the dot of time, because you just have a minute to go, and the timekeeping was excellent, Inakshi. What the main takeaways I've got from this is, the importance of design because this is an existing smart city sort of designated street, and what you brought through your design interventions, and hopefully they will all be taken on board and implemented, is without using any defensive architecture. You're actually trying to stimulate behavioral change in terms of parking and walking and civic responsibility. And that sort of reinforces the importance of design in the primacy of design in any urban plan. So thank you so much.
That was the idea. That was the crux of our entire. That's the starting point of our entire proposal. So thank you for mentioning that. I think it was a good reminder for us as well.
Yes, definitely.
And definitely thank you for organizing this. I mean, we were all very excited.
This was really fun.
Yes. With the fact that everyone's actually watching, and if we can also learn from your questions, or if anyone else can learn from whatever we have seen. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you, Inakshi, for moderating the entire webinar. It was great.
Yes,
thank you for putting up the effort, into the presentation that gives the moderator, all the meat to ask the question. So thank you to all of you guys in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
We'll be meeting again in a month's time. So we meet every third Sunday of the month at 7 p.m., the Maharashtra hub. We will be also starting a Gujarat hub. So do stay tuned to that. From next month we'll be having events from Gujarat as well. There's so many cities there, like Rajkot, Surat, Vadodara, who are doing similar sort of street redesign and taken up the challenge. Right. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time off on Sunday. We'll be putting this up on the YouTube channel, so to help promote it as well, and ultimately we'll be probably summarizing a lot of the takeaways from each city redesign proposal. And good luck to you for the enforcement and the implementation of some of these things.
Just like to add a big thank you to our audience who's taken time out on a Sunday evening to be part of the conversation here.
Yeah, definitely. Big thank you to everyone who came.